Alrighty, folks, we are now live on my Twitter and the Fireside Knicks YouTube, and in just a moment, we will also be on the Fireside Knicks Instagram. Judging by the title, I think a lot of you guys know what we're going to be talking about today. I want to talk about the playoff rotation, and more specifically, who will make the playoff rotation and who won't make the playoff rotation. I think this is now a good time to discuss the playoff rotation and to kind of discuss exactly who will be a part of the plans for this title run that we're on. Right. So first off, shout out to everybody who is in the chat and who's tuning in. I do appreciate everybody who tunes into these streams. I said I would do these more often. And I will get to comments and stuff in a few moments. I just want to talk about some first orders of business. And that main order of business, of course, is the playoff rotation, as I had just alluded to. So without further ado, I think this is a good point for me to kind of bring up last night. I don't want to say last night was a dress rehearsal of kind because I think that's a bad term to use for a game against the Bulls, and especially a game that they didn't play Karl-Anthony Towns in, and a game they won by 40, so they got to play a lot of the bench guys and stuff. But in the first half, though, I think we got an idea of what the rotation in the playoffs could look like. Keyword could. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be that way, but Jeremy Sohan played a lot in the first half, and he played really well. He actually had put in a very solid effort coming off the bench, pretty much backing up Mitchell Robinson. He finished with 7 points, 8 rebounds, a steal and a block, was a plus 30, and he was defensive player of the game. It was easily the best and most impactful performance that Sohan has put together since he joined the Knicks. And I think that that was something he really needed to have. And I do think him being able to play like that is a good sign for if we need him in the playoffs that we can trust him to provide an impact, especially on the defensive side. Give us some more size, some length, some versatility, all that good stuff that I mentioned in last night's stream following the win over the Bulls. What I am going to pull up for you guys is a projected rotation that I think will be the case. So I'm going to take off this overlay for just a moment here to pull it up for you guys. This is what I think the rotation will look like. And I do apologize that the background is the incorrect background. I will change that right now for you guys. It's not Fireside Giants. Shout out to Fireside Giants. Those guys are awesome, but this is not a Fireside Giants stream. Anyways, here's the playoff rotation that I project will be the case. Again, I'm not saying it's definitely going to be like this. It very well could be different. I'm not Mike Brown, so obviously I'm not in charge of these decisions, but just based on what I have been seeing from this season and judging off of what we've gotten out of this year, this is what I think the rotation is going to end up being. You got your starters. I don't think that's really going to change. I know some people have said that Josh Hart should maybe come off the bench. And, in part, I kind of agree. I've been clamoring for a bit now that Deuce should start. But unfortunately, Deuce came back so late in the year that I just don't think they're going to do it at this point. I think we're going to continue to see Josh Hart in the starting five. So the starters will remain untouched. And then for the bench, this is where things will get interesting. I listed 3 guards here. I said that McBride, Shamet, Clarkson are all going to get playoff minutes. Now, Clarkson is more of a finicky option here because I don't think Clarkson is going to necessarily get crazy amounts of minutes. I don't think he's going to play like a ton of minutes in the playoffs. I really don't. I personally believe that Clarkson is going to get minutes here and there. He might play a little bit. He might play a lot. Depends how he's playing. But I think it'll be a little closer to situational for Clarkson. But I listed him here anyway for the sake of making this graphic and also for the sake that I do think out of all those situational guys, I think he will actually play a decent amount. I don't think he's like a lock, but I do think he's kind of played his way back into actually earning some minutes. So that's why I got him here. Now, I know some people have been saying DOR should play, or even Jeremy Sohan after what he did last night, but I just don't see a scenario really where DOR is going to play a whole ton of minutes in the playoffs, if any at all, just because he's a rookie. He's still, trying to weed his way out, get his feet wet in the league a little bit, and I don't know if Mike Brown wants to really toss him in there in playoff minutes. Now, who knows? Maybe he does trust the kid, and maybe he does put him in there in stretches where we need some more size, we need some more shooting, this, that, and the other. But overall, I mean, I just don't know if he's going to play a lot of minutes, which is why I didn't list him here. So that's one reason. And there's other people who have also been bringing up Tyler Kolek and Jose Alvarado, 2 guys who have played a little bit, played a little bit, also at times not at all, but have gotten some minutes here and there. But it seems like at this point, with the amount of guards that the Knicks have on the roster, they're kind of the odd man out, kind of like they're falling victim to the numbers game a little bit here. And I just with the way things have been trending lately, I'm not going to see a situation where Alvarado is playing over McBride. You're not going to see that as long as McBride is healthy. And the same goes for Kolek. And then Shamit, you need his defense and you need his shooting because it's been so impactful this year. So there's no way that they're going to play over him either. So the only way I see Alvarado or Kolek actually getting some playoff minutes is really if they need more guards. Not necessarily need more guards, but if they need more like defense or more playmaking, very situational though. I don't really expect them to be in the playoff rotation, and honestly, I think that should be the case. Not necessarily because I think they're both bad. No, I don't think they're both bad. It's just they're not better than the guys that I've listed here. Now, maybe one of them plays over Clarkson. That is definitely a possibility, but then you run into the issue of what I presented already with having Clarkson in here, the lack of size. And somebody did just mention in the Instagram comments that you need Diawar's height. Yeah, I don't disagree. I do think they could benefit from having a taller guy out there, a guy with more size, a guy with more length. But again, I just don't know if they're going to actually play DOR for a good amount of minutes in the playoffs. I just don't see a situation where they do that. He's a rookie, second round rookie. He's been in and out of the rotation in the regular season at this point. And last night, he and Alvarado didn't even play in the first half last night. So that could be kind of a telltale sign right there that that those two guys aren't going to be getting playoff minutes. And that's fine. I'm okay with that personally. As much as I do like those two players individually, I think for the sake of trying to win a championship, you got to play your best guys and your most trustworthy guys. And unfortunately, those two guys are not exactly very high on the trust ladder. So again, it just kind of becomes a numbers game at that point. Who do you trust more over these guys? And I think the guys I've listed here are the guys you trust more. I'm gonna take this off the screen now to put the overlay back on and stuff. But basically that's what I think will be the playoff rotation. Again, I'm not saying it's concrete. I'm not saying that I'm not really inserting much of an opinion either into that graphic. But I do agree to an extent that maybe Josh Hart should not start. I do, but I think we're just so far into the year that I don't know if it's going to happen anymore. I don't think we're going to run into Mike Brown actually benching him. Now, could it happen? I mean, it very well could. This team does surprise us quite a bit, but I just personally don't see it happening. And somebody just said, hot take, start Mitch over Cat. No, they're not going to start Mitchell Robinson over Karl-Anthony Towns, and they should not do that. I think that's malpractice, especially if, look, I like Mitchell Robinson at time. That's malpractice still if you're starting him over Cat. If you're going to start Mitchell Robinson, it would be to start him with Cat, not over him. So, I have to disagree with that one. Somebody said Mo needs more minutes. Look, I get that, and I do think Mo Diawara has game. We've talked very highly about him on this program, many times throughout this season, but I just don't see him getting minutes in the playoffs. I don't see it happening. And a couple months ago, maybe it seemed like a possibility that he was because he just continued to evolve, he continued to grow, he was showing a lot of signs, a good promise, but now he's kind of, lately he's shown a bit of touch that he's a rookie. He's had his rookie moments, and again, that's perfectly fine. That should be expected out of a second round rookie. If anything, I think he already has outplayed his expectations this year. So, I'm not going to be tripping about how a late second round rookie at that is struggling because it's simple. It's just you just don't play him if he's struggling, and that's what Mike Brown has been doing. He hasn't been playing him as much because he hasn't been playing as well. And that's not saying he's been awful of late, but he's kind of fallen, I guess, regressed a little bit back to the mean a little bit. And then again, that's perfectly fine because he's a rookie. You're not going to expect much out of him. Now, for Sohan's sake, I know some people have mentioned Sohan, and I did even bring up today on the Instagram and on Twitter, I brought up the idea of potentially having Jeremy Sohan get some playoff minutes. Now, I'm not saying outright, yeah, he needs to be in the rotation for the postseason. But what I will say is I after last night, I did come out of that game feeling a bit more comfortable about exactly what Sohan could do if they need him to play minutes in the playoffs. Now, I'm not saying he has to, be the main backup four or the backup five, whatever it may be. But let's say let's say Mitchell Robinson or Cat is in foul trouble, right? Let's say they have 3 fouls in early in the first half. Now they have to sit for the rest of the half. I feel like I can trust Sohan to come in and provide an impact. I do feel like I can do that now after seeing what he did yesterday. Now, granted, the Bulls are very, very bad. The Bulls are, not even just one of the worst teams in the league. They're easily, they could arguably even be the worst team in the league, to an extent. But with that in mind, despite that, I still think Sohan showed a lot that he can play. He can get some minutes. I mean, the guy has been in and out. He hasn't really played a whole ton since he came over to the Knicks, and he got an opportunity last night with Karl Anthony Towns sitting, and he made the most of it. I thought he played really well, and I feel like I can trust him to um, provide an impact in spurts. Now, that's not saying I need Sohan to be playing 15 minutes or 20 minutes even. No, I don't need that. But if Sohan can give me like a good, I don't know, 5 to 7 minute stretch um of solid defense, some versatility, some physicality, all that stuff, um, they'll be in a fine spot because they'll have a guy they can trust. They'll have a guy who can make an impact, and um that's the luxury of having a deep team. You know what I mean? I think the Knicks' depth is really going to be tested in the postseason. I feel because with the amount of options that they do in fact have that are capable of getting minutes, we're gonna really kind of get to see just who Mike Brown really plays and can really trust because it's a matter of trust at this point. Who do you trust over certain guys? Some might say I trust Shamit over this guy more. Or I trust Diawara over this guy. And that's fine. That's good that we have a lot of players who we feel comfortable about playing important minutes, but at the same time, we have to make sure that they are pressing the right buttons, that they are playing the right guys, and that they are giving the proper minutes out there to the guys that deserve it. Because, again, we have a championship to pursue. We cannot use the playoffs to kind of tinker with the rotation. We have to, I guess, figure it out within these next 4 games. They have 4 important games coming up against all playoff teams or play-in teams. You got the Hawks on Monday. Then you have the Raptors, the Celtics, and the Hornets to close out the season. It's a tough draw, and this will be a good opportunity for the Knicks to kind of get a sense of who will play in the playoffs and who will actually be able to make a winning impact in the playoffs. Because obviously the playoffs is a whole different thing than the regular season. You're going to be facing a lot better competition, so that's really what I got to say about that. And I think this is a good time for me to kind of turn it over to some comments. I see we have some on the Instagram and stuff. I do apologize if the stream lags a little bit. I say that every stream, but sometimes the connection can be a little crappy. Somebody just said I feel like our problem is the roster is too deep. Um, to a degree, because when you have a deep roster, it becomes a much tougher you have much tougher choices to make with regards to who's going to be getting minutes. But I actually think having a deep roster is a big luxury. I think having a roster with a lot of depth, a lot of um, scorers or guys that can defend, I think that's a good thing. I think the Knicks have a good problem on their hands where um, they have many different options. Somebody said, "What's up, bro? What's up, man? I hope you're having a good day today." It is Saturday afternoon. The Final Four is later tonight, so for anybody who's interested in watching that, I hope you have a good time watching that. This should be a fun night tonight in Hoopsville. Um, anyways, as I was just saying, um, with the deep team, as that person just pointed out, um, look, I get that it may seem like an issue just because like when you have a deep team, it can be harder to find play guys, but you know, I get, and now this person just said, of course it's a luxury. I'm mostly just joking, but our roster is genuinely so good. No, the roster is good, and at the end of the day, with it being that deep, though, you do have tough decisions to make. I still think what I was saying before is still valid here because when you have a deep team, you run into this like you have to decide, okay, do I really have to bench this guy even though I don't want to? And that becomes tough because then, that could affect the player's mindset. That could affect the way the player plays. If you call him back up to play, it can throw him out of rhythm. It's there are concerns with that. But having a deep team is of course a luxury, as you just said. And of course, as I was saying, it's a good thing you have a deep team. It's a good problem to have for the team as a whole sake, but you also want to make sure the players are staying ready. And I think that the Knicks have done a very good job at making sure their guys are staying ready. Jeremy Sohan's a good example last night. Jordan Clarkson coming back into the rotation and making an impact is another great example. All the times Diawara has stepped up when we needed him to. So the Knicks have done a good job at keeping guys prepared and keeping guys, staying locked in. So I'm pleased with that. Somebody asked who I got winning the Natty in March Madness. I got Arizona. I got Arizona too. Honestly, I think the winner of the Michigan Arizona game tonight will win the entire thing. So, um, that will determine who's going to win the title. In my opinion, those two teams are just insanely good, like really good. So that's what I got there. Let's see what else we got here. Somebody said we're staying third seed, the Celtics not losing. I don't expect to take the second seed at this point. I just don't think there's enough time. There's 4 games left, and we're 2.5 back. So basically, if we don't win out, you could pretty much kiss the second seed goodbye. So we need to just stay locked in on hoping we can get the third seed because I do think that is very realistic. I'd even argue that that is the most likely outcome at this point. As I pull up the standings right now, we are 1.5 games up on the Cavaliers for the 4 seed, and we're 5.5 up on the Hawks for 5th, so they can't really fall any lower. I actually don't think they mathematically can fall any lower than 4. Um, so at the very worst, they will have home court advantage in the first round, so that's a good thing. But I do want to get the 3 seed at least because if we play in the conference finals, um, and we don't face Detroit, then we would have home court advantage. So you want to at least get 3 seeds so you can kind of hope that that happens because, of course, we cannot predict how the playoffs are going to go. The Knicks could easily fizzle out early. The Pistons could fizzle out early. Celtics could fizzle out. Anybody could fizzle out early this year. I think the East is very much I think this is the most open the East has been in quite a bit of time. I think the Knicks honestly should be able to run through the East, but um, that's just looking at like their talent and all that stuff. So um, we'll just see how that goes. Looking to see what else we got. Somebody said you worried about the Celtics for the playoffs. They're looking really good, and if not the Celtics, who are you worried about? I am. I wouldn't say I'm worried about the Celtics. I do think we can beat Boston, but I'm definitely paying attention to them. I'm definitely not you know, just like looking at them like it's nothing. I'm not treating them like how I treat the Cavs. Personally, I'm not worried about the Cavs. I think that's a team I'm not worried about. Um or any of those teams below Cleveland as well, like Atlanta, Philly, Toronto, Charlotte. I'm not worried about those teams. The only team I'm genuinely like actually concerned about is Detroit. I think a healthy Detroit Pistons is going to give the Knicks a lot of problems. They gave the Knicks a lot of problems last year when they matched up in the first round. So, um, I think that's the one team that I'm like definitely looking at as like, yeah, I would like to avoid those guys, but in order to make it far, you have to play the best and beat the best. So um we'll just have to see how that ends up turning out. Somebody asked how far do you think they're going to make it in the postseason this year? I think the minimum expectation should be that the Knicks make the NBA Finals. I really, really do. That should be the bare minimum. But um, I also know that's such a lofty expectation. So um, look, if they face Detroit in the conference finals, I think the conversation becomes a little different because look, I as much as I don't want to say that Detroit will make the finals, they've owned the Knicks this year. So unless the Knicks make adjustments against Detroit if they end up facing them, then the Knicks are going to lose in the conference finals again. But, you know, we've seen them play at their best, and when they are playing at their best, they're one of the top teams in the league. So, we'll give it some time. We'll see how the rest of the season works its way out, these last 4 games, and of course how the playoffs goes as well. Um, and just go from there. But the minimum expectation should be to go to the finals. I mean, you made the conference finals last year, and then you brought in a new coach to get to the finals. So you have to prove that you can get to the finals. That's why the expectations are as high as they are. I'll take a water break, and then I'll get to more comments. Just 1 second. And I do appreciate everybody who is tuning in. regardless of which platform you are on. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to Fireside Knicks. If you're watching this on my Twitter, follow me on Twitter. Make sure you follow Fireside Knicks on Twitter as well. And of course, make sure you share, repost, and send this stream to anybody who you think would like this. If you're on Instagram, same stuff. Make sure you guys and follow us on Fireside Knicks at Instagram. We're also on every other social media platform you can think of. Share this stream with anybody who will enjoy this stream, and also who you think might want to interact with me and talk to me about some Knicks or anything NBA related, really. And yeah, that's really all I got to say about that, to kind of get you guys to um, follow up with us. I really appreciate all the support. But anyways, let's get back to some of the comments here. Somebody said, "Who would you want to see on the team next season?" Um, well, I think most of the starters will stay intact. I think it really just depends again how they're going to do in the playoffs. If they fizzle out in the playoffs, then we'll know some changes are probably forthcoming. But if they end up making it to the finals, then maybe they run back the core. I don't know. That's a question I'll be able to answer better for you during the off season. But it's definitely something to think about. Somebody said, "I hate that the Knicks don't play on a Saturday again this year. Saturday games at the Garden are different." Yeah, Saturday games are definitely fun. It sucks that they do not play tonight. Someone said, "We all know the Knicks are winning the conference." I hope so. I really do hope so. Somebody said, "I'm worried about the Celtics, not as much about the Pistons. I truly believe the Pistons aren't a playoff team, and without it makes it a lot better. I'm not worried about the Cavs also." I get what you mean. I mean, I know there's that whole thing about how the Pistons are, um, still not like a powerhouse. Like they're more of a team that relies on depth and one superstar, as opposed to like, an all-star type of roster. Um, or one that's like really top heavy. But their role players play really well. They do their job, and they play physical. They play great defense. They're probably top defense in the league if it's not Oklahoma City or San Antonio. So um that's a tough team. That is a tough team. I'm more worried about the Pistons than the Celtics, because the Celtics are a team that relies a lot on three-pointers, and if the Knicks can just close off those three-pointers, then they'll be in the driver's seat. That's what happened last year. Um, so I'm looking at Detroit a little bit more this time around, because of their physicality, because of the defense, because those are the areas the Knicks have struggled in the most. Obviously, the Knicks' three-point defense has had its issues too, but um, the physicality and stuff has stood out more to me. So that's what I gotta say. Somebody said, "Thoughts on Big Mitch last night?" I thought he was great. I thought Mitchell Robinson was fantastic last night in his start. 17 points, 11 rebounds, made a very good impact defensively as well. Mitchell Robinson's been one of the more consistent players this year, just in terms of providing an impact, and that's why I said that they need to bring him back. As much as in the offseason I was saying the opposite. Um, my tone on that has completely changed. It's completely flipped 180. I think Mitchell Robinson needs to stay, and I really hope that they can keep him to stay. Someone said he played most of the first quarter too. Yeah, I know his minutes have been going up. Granted, Carlton Towns didn't play, so they had to play him a little bit more. But they didn't have to play much in the second half because they were blowing him out by 40. But yeah, his minutes have been going up. If you can get Mitchell Robinson to play close to 30 minutes in the playoffs, that's huge. The health was always the big thing with him, and managing that ankle. And this year they've done a great job with that. Excuse me. And they've done a great job with that, and I'm really happy to see him getting more minutes, and seeing that his minutes are able to go up, and he's still able to provide an impact with the increased minutes, because that is, of course, very, very much important. Somebody said, "Mitch might be my favorite Knicks player. He's such a consistent player you can always rely on, especially during the postseason." Yeah, I love Mitchell Robinson. I do. I mean, I like him as a player. I never once thought his impact was ever an issue on the court. Every time he was out there, I did feel like he was a very good player. It was always just the health that concerned me about, being able to be on the court. That was what was always the issue with me. But hey, this year he's been healthy. He's played well, and he's made an impact. So I have no complaints with it anymore. Someone said there are no back-to-backs in the playoffs, correct? Yeah, no back-to-backs in the playoffs, which is a good thing. Someone said, "How you doing?" I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I hope you are also having a very good day as well. This Saturday afternoon is the day before Easter, so if you guys celebrate, happy Easter to everybody who in fact celebrates. I won't be streaming tomorrow for anybody who is curious because of the holiday. Um, I'll possibly be back on here Monday, but I know Monday is the national championship for March Madness, so maybe I'll skip that and maybe I'll save the stream for the day after the Hawks game. We'll see. We'll see. We'll work through it and figure it out as the time goes. But just know tomorrow I definitely will not be streaming. That I've already established that, which is why I'm on here today because I want to talk some Knicks with you guys and you know, keep the ball rolling as we get into the postseason. Let's see what else we got. Somebody said, "What's the playoff rotation going to look like?" So I was just talking about it, but I think what I posted before is a good indicator. I'll pull the graphic back up for you, and for anybody else who might have missed it when I had it up on the screen before, um, this is what I posted earlier, and I'll show it again for you guys. This is what I think the playoff rotation will be. Now, this is not me saying that this is what it should be, but this is what I think it will be just based on what we've been seeing throughout this year and what the trends have been. Notable omissions, of course, have been Jose Alvarado, Mohamed Diawara, Tyler Kolek, Jeremy Sohan. Those guys I did not include in here because I don't see them actually getting a significant amount of minutes. I think Sohan is certainly somebody who can get some playoff minutes. I do think that there is a possibility he gets a little bit of them, but I don't think he's going to play like a significant amount. I think the guys I listed here will play the bulk of those. Clarkson's kind of a like I said before, Clarkson's kind of one of those options where maybe he's a little bit closer to situational than outright getting a ton of minutes, but I do think that he will be one of those first options in terms of being in terms of those situational guys. I think he will be one of those first guys to come off that bench. So that's why I listed him there. I'm gonna take that off the screen now though and put the overlay back on for those watching on Twitter and YouTube. There we go. Let's go back to some comments. Let's see. So someone said, "Why do you think only 9 players?" Good question. I think only 9 players because um, I just don't see a situation where they play more than that. They haven't been playing more than that for the bulk of the season, so I have no reason to believe that we'll suddenly start seeing 10 to 11 man rotations in the postseason. I think the postseason is a time where you want to know who's going to provide the impact the most. And of course, because the starters' minutes are going to increase. The starters are right now playing between 30 and 35 minutes, and that's going to rise to 35 to 40 in the postseason. So that leaves less time for the bench guys, and you have just less options to throw out there. You're not going to throw out Diawara for 2 minutes in the playoffs. It's either you're going to play Diawara for 5 minutes or so, for a stretch before a timeout, or you're not going to play him at all. And I think the odds in that regard for him specifically would be that he wouldn't play at all. I think that's where the odds in favor would be for that. I see we have some more viewers in here, so I do appreciate everybody who is tuning in. Make sure you guys, like I said before, share this stream with anybody who you think would enjoy this. Follow Fireside Knicks on all of our platforms. Follow me on Twitter at Dylan Backer ESM. I'm also on Instagram at Dylan Backer ESM. Yeah. And please like up this stream, like, comment, and subscribe if you are on YouTube. If you're on X, repost this. I would really appreciate all that support. Let's see. Someone said Mo or Sohan. Good question. That's a tough one for me to answer, honestly. Because I really like Diawara's game. I think defensively he's got some tools. I think offensively we know he's a really good shooter. But Sohan's a little more physical and a little more versatile in terms of what positions he can play, and of course he's more of a veteran. That's tough. That is tough. I honestly don't know who I would choose between those two. I'm glad you asked me that because I have to think about that one a little bit more. Someone said, "What do you think the playoff rotation should be?" Good question. I think what I pulled up should be the rotation. I'm fine with it being like that if that's what it is. If like instead of Clarkson we see Diawara instead, I'll be okay with that as well. I don't expect Kolek and Alvarado to be playing though. I don't. Maybe Alvarado gets a little bit of minutes just to bring some intensity, some uplift the team a little bit, but I just don't see him playing playoff minutes. I mean, he's already kind of losing his rotation spot as it is, so I have no reason to believe he's just going to randomly earn it back in the playoffs. Someone asked, "Have I been to a Knicks playoff game before?" No, I haven't, and I really want to. I really do. It's on my bucket list. One day I'll make it happen. Someone asked, "How do I feel about Brunson's performance last night?" I thought Brunson was fine last night. 17 points, 10 assists. I know he didn't do a whole ton of scoring, but he didn't need to. Team blew him out by 40. OG went off. Mitchell Robinson had a great game. I have no problem with how Brunson played last night. I thought Brunson played the game the right way for the Knicks to win the game. I thought he was moving the ball really well, and when he passes more, and when the ball does move more, just as a team, a lot more good things happen for this group. It's always boiling down to playmaking because the talent is there. You just got to get everybody involved. Someone said if Brunson becomes a pass first point guard, could that take the Knicks to the next level? That is a great question. As I just said, I think if the team moves the ball well, and of course it starts with Brunson being able to do that. But if the team moves the ball really well, gets guys involved, they have great ball movement, then then they can go far. It absolutely can raise the ceiling of the team. Somebody said on YouTube, what up, man? I hope you're having a great day so far on this lovely Saturday. I appreciate the comment. Let's go back to some of the Instagram comments because I see we have quite a bit of them. Somebody said that Tibbs had his starters up 45 against Boston last year. Yeah, Tibbs did have his starters playing quite a lot of minutes, and that's just how it was. Tibbs played his guys quite a bit, and that's how he was. That's how he operated, and it is what it is. So, but it's different with Mike Brown. Obviously, Mike Brown does not operate the same way. So, you know, we'll just have to see. I did see somebody just followed us. I do appreciate that a lot. Thank you for the follow, my guy. Let's see what else we got here. We're gonna go back up to some of these other comments. Someone said a British fan here. Wow, I really appreciate that support from all the way over there, in the UK. I believe that was the UK flag. It's hard for me to see, but I believe that's what it was. So, um, I do appreciate that. We love the overseas support. Someone said Rangers are on fire. I don't follow hockey a whole ton, honestly, but we do have Fireside Rangers. Make sure you guys, if you guys are hockey fans, that you guys go follow them. Those guys do a great job over there. Let's see what else we got. Someone said for me, it's definitely Sohan over Mo because he's got that unk in him. In other words, he's a veteran, and I feel like we can rely on him more. Sohan's actually pretty young. He's only 22, but he's still. It's kind of crazy. He's only 22 because I think this is his fourth season in the league now. So the fact that he's only 22 and he's played that long in the league, that's pretty remarkable. Someone said record until the end of the regular season, in your opinion. I talked about it yesterday, but I could see them going 2-2 to close the year out. And the reason I said 2-2 was because I feel like they'll beat the Hawks and the Raptors, but something just tells me they'll end up losing to Boston. I just don't know why. I just feel like that'll happen. And then against Charlotte, there's a chance that they might be sitting everybody, and Charlotte might need that game still. So, that could also result in a loss. But a 52 win season is still very good. I think where they're at right now is still very good, but we'll just see what happens. Maybe they do go 4-0, and I would love that as a fan that they would go 4-0, but I'm not going to predict 4-0. Somebody said I'm from Italy. That's what's up, man. I really love that for you. I'm technically Italian as well, so shout out to all the Italians. Someone said the Knicks go as far as the bench takes us. Absolutely. I'm glad you said that because the depth last year was definitely an issue. They didn't have that same kind of depth last year as they do right now. They basically had like no bench. It was basically McBride and Robinson coming off the bench for the entirety of last year in the postseason. So now they have a couple more options. They have Shamit, who I would like to think is going to actually get some burn this time around, and the other guys we've been talking about so far, such as Clarkson, Sohan, Diawara, and so on and so forth. Someone said we're going to live by the 3 and die by the 3. Yeah, and that's a good and bad thing. I wish they would be a little more versatile on offense, but in today's NBA, you have to be a good shooting team. So if the Knicks catch fire from three, that then you'll get what happened last night when you blow a team out by 40. Um, so yeah. Someone said, "Wait, he's 22." I was honestly under the impression he was like 26 or 28 or something like that. Obviously not that old, but he's a freak athlete. Yeah, I look, I thought Sohan was a little older too, honestly, when we first brought him in. And then I looked and then I double checked and I was like, wow, he's still only 22. It does not feel like he's only 22. This is like I said, I believe this is his fourth season in the league. Um, yeah, he's still very young. That's why the upside is still there. That's why they brought him in because he's young and he's got quite a bit of upside still to him. Um, this is not really like a raw prospect either, even though I still think sometimes he plays like one. I think he still has some things to refine in his game, but he's been in the league, he's played in the league long enough, so he's warmed up a little bit. He just needs to be warmed up to a postseason environment because that is the one thing he is still yet to do is be in a playoff environment. Someone said, "How do I feel like the Knicks are going to do in the playoffs without bias?" I'm glad you asked me that. Um, I really want to say they're going to the finals because I think that's what they should do. I think that is where they should end up by the time we are having this conversation in late May. But if they keep playing this way, then they can easily lose in the second round. Like, okay, like how they did last night was great. But if they keep playing like how they played during the 7 game win streak, and if they keep playing like how they did, if they play like how they did in January, or if they still struggle to kind of identify what roles they have and stuff, they can lose in the second round. And they can lose in the conference finals. Um, this is one of those seasons where I have no idea where the Knicks could finish. The Knicks could easily make it to the finals. Easily. I'm not even joking. They can easily make it to the finals. They can easily lose in the first round. Easily lose in the second round of conference finals, all that stuff. So, um, hardest Knick team to ever evaluate, if you ask me. This is the hardest Knick team I've ever watched for me to evaluate because, um, when you look back at more recent years, right? 2022, 2023, I'm going to start with the Brunson era. 2022, 2023, you knew that team was probably going to make the playoffs, but you figured that team still was a step away from actually being a contender. 2023, 2024, it started off kind of the same way, and then they made the OG trade and like didn't lose. So then you thought, okay, maybe they actually can go to the finals, but then they got injured, so you kind of just lived with the outcome. They got hurt. And then last season, bringing in Bridges and Towns, you felt like, okay, now they're really trying to make win now moves. Now they're really trying to go for it, right? I think a lot of us, though, expected us to lose to Boston in the playoffs, and then we beat them. So then, we were just happy to make it to the conference finals and take a step forward. Excuse me. And then this year, though, with the fact that most of the team is back, that it's basically the same team that we had last season, that means they're committed to this core. So now it's like, okay, we're expecting you to go further. We're expecting you to make the finals. And of course, with the notion that, Jason Tatum did not play most of the season until very recently, and Tyrese Halliburton hasn't played all year and won't play all year, and the Pacers are really bad. So with those teams not really, I mean, well, now the Celtics, I guess, are in our way, but with the Pacers specifically not in our way, um, you would think like, okay, now is the opportunity. So yeah, we're expecting to really do something this year. Let's see what else we got. I see we got a handful of comments. If I do ever miss your comment, I do apologize for that. Let's see. I'm gonna take a sip of my water and get to the next one. Somebody said if the Knicks want to make a championship run, who needs to step up and show up the most, and why? Um, there's a couple players, and I think you know who I'm gonna say. Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns. Those are the two guys right there that have to play at a high level and have to play at their best for the Knicks to go far. The Knicks' success they can only rely on Brunson so much before you need the other guys to actually step up and make themselves a threat. So if they can get positive production out of Bridges and of course all-star level production out of Cat, that changes a lot for this team. It will. Somebody said probably Brunson or OG answering that question. Um, yeah, I mean those guys obviously need to step up and show up too, but um, I think the other two guys I just named, I think those guys raised the ceiling. Because Brunson and OG at this point, I think, guarantee you a level of success. They're your floor, right? They're guaranteeing you that you're going to be good and you'll be a playoff team. The success of the other two guys, though, determines if you're going to be in the finals or not, because you need to have the whole team on the same page. So, and if you look at like some of these finals teams over the years, it's a lot of unsuspecting players that play well that get them there. You look at the Pacers last year; it was Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nemhard, Pascal Siakam, who really stepped up for them. If you look at even 20, even that Heat team that made the eight seeded Heat team that made the finals, it was a lot of their role players. It was Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, guys like that that stepped up. If you look at let's see what like if you even look at the Thunder last year, SJ obviously is MVP and they have a good team, but they're a deep team and they got positive production out of guys like J Dub, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, guys like that making an impact, and their bench as well. Having like Isaiah Joe come off the bench and hit a bunch of threes, or Tayson Wallace being an exceptional defender, things like that. Those guys make a difference. So it's your other options that can really raise the ceiling of the team as far as when you look away from your stars, because Brunson's gonna be making a lot of points. He's gonna be scoring a lot. He's gonna probably be averaging 30 points in the postseason this year. We know that. And we know OG is gonna probably show up as your best defender most nights, and that's great. We need those other two to step up though, or else we're not going anywhere. It's that simple. And that's not even really to say much of their recent performances. It's just the success of those two guys makes your team that it can determine what kind of team you are. So that's really what I gotta say about that. Here's a good question. Someone said, "How do you think Mike Brown did in his first year as a head coach?" I give him a B. I give him a B plus. I give him a B plus because um while some of the optics have not been the prettiest, and while sometimes they've had a couple stretches this year that have been pretty bad, and Mike Brown's had some games where he didn't coach well, or maybe the guys weren't as locked in. It's tough entering a new team for your first year and actually maintaining the same level of success that the team had the year before, especially when you're trying to implement a new system. And to Mike Brown's credit, they still won a lot of games this year. They clinched a postseason berth again. They don't have to go through the play-in or anything. Um, they have had stretches this year where they look like the best team in the league. Um, the metrics would indicate too they're much better on defense, which I think was pretty surprising. I think a lot of us thought that Tibbs was the defensive mastermind and all that, but the defense has actually been better statistically under Mike Brown, which is again that's shocking to me because I think a lot of us expected by the Mike Brown hire to mainly fasten the offense. The downside is that the offensive pace is still relatively low. So, you brought him in for a faster pace, but they didn't really live up to the faster pace. Um, and of course, sometimes, the hero ball and stuff with Brunson, the lack of ball movement. But I think the system can work. I think it's part issue is that the system does have flaws, but I do think it can work. But I think the other part of the problem is that the players on the team might not be the best fit for said system. You know, so we'll see how it goes in the playoffs. I think I'll be able to really grade Mike Brown's performance this year after the postseason, because if he takes us to the finals, then that grade raises to an A, because that means you lived up to the expectation of getting there. Um, but if we fizzle out in the first round, that grade might turn into like almost a C. So um, it can really change in a couple weeks. Somebody said when we move the ball, the team's untouchable. Absolutely. I mean, I said this before a while back, and I'm gonna say it again. But I've noticed that every time that they have high assist numbers, when they reach like 30 assists in the game or 25 assists, even just something like that, they win the game by a lot because they're moving the ball well and getting everybody involved. When they play a team brand of basketball, they do really well. When they rely on one guy, they don't do very well. When they turn the ball over too much or they're not making the right reads, that's when things go south. Excuse me. Yawning a little bit today. Let's see what else we got. I see I've skipped over definitely some comments. Um, Let's see. Someone said, "What do you think our identity could be?" Well, I think they need to make themselves. I think right now they don't even have an identity, and that's an issue. But I think what they need to make an identity of is that they're a physical and tough team to beat. I think they need to identify themselves as like they're a team that they can run. They can run other teams off the floor with their offense, with their shooting, and they need to impose their will on the defensive end. They need to show some physicality, show some fight, match that energy, and just play hard. That's what they need to do. So, um, if they can make that their identity, then they can go far. Absolutely. Let's see what else we got. Someone said Bridges needs to wake up and go play, especially because he get in the bag. Yeah, yes he does. It's as simple as that. And that's why I said a couple minutes ago, the success of him and Karl Anthony Towns changes a lot for this group. That's how far we'll get to go. Those two guys right there will determine how far we go because we know Brunson and OG are gonna get us some wins and they'll do their thing. But what will the other guys do? What version of those guys are we gonna get? That's what's gonna matter. Someone said the team needs to feed Cat more. He's too talented for Mike Brown to just play him as a role player and not a player we traded our all-star forward for. Absolutely. And I was a huge Randall guy. I really was. I feel like I was one of the few Randall supporters in the Knicks community that was still around after Randall had gotten traded. So um I held Cat to a very high pedestal because of that. Because I liked Randall a lot. And I thought Randall could give us success. So, um, yeah. Let's see. Someone said we're playing better defense, especially a faster pace compared to before. Still room for improvement. Yep, well said. Someone asked, "What do you think our identity is right now? What do you want it to be?" So what I want it to be, I think I already answered. You know, I want it to be a physical, and I want them to impose their will. What I think it is right now, bro, like I said, I don't think they have one. I don't think they even know what their strengths and weaknesses are. So that's what I want changed. Someone else just said the biggest takeaway from last night is that Jose did not get any rotation minutes, and I brought that up. I said he and Diawara did not play at all in the first half, and in fact, they didn't play until garbage time. So that's why I don't think either of those guys are going to be in the playoff rotation. Not just because of one night, but because it's clear that Mike Brown is okay with not playing those guys, and they still win the game by 40. Granted, it's the Bulls. You're not facing the Bulls in the playoffs, but um, I think that can definitely indicate what's forthcoming. Someone said if OG plays like an all-star all through the playoffs, we can win it all. Also, yeah, I think I do think I think OG can definitely raise the ceiling too if he plays like an all-star. If he plays the way he's been playing of late, absolutely. Someone said, I don't know if it's me, but it seems like Mikhail shies away from some contact and important moments. Yeah, Mikhail is one of those guys that I don't understand why he's not as aggressive because the guy's 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan, and it's not like he's a bad finisher. So, I don't understand why he shies away from the contact. I think if he actually tried to absorb some of that contact more, he would be honestly unstoppable because that's a guy who can then score at all three levels. So, um, it's the aggressiveness with him. It's aggressiveness and confidence. He needs to remain confident to be able to get his 3 pointers to start falling again, but he needs to be aggressive. The guy needs to be aggressive. Someone said if Hart shoots like he's been shooting recently, he'll be amazing for us. He needs to shoot the ball. That's what he needs to do. He needs to actually just shoot it. He hasn't been a bad shooter at all this year. In fact, he's having his best shooting season arguably ever. So, um, he needs to shoot it. He needs to let it fly. I don't understand why he sometimes he just doesn't shoot it. It never made sense to me why he does that. Honestly, it really never made sense to me why he just doesn't shoot it. Because there are many times he'll be wide open and instead he's looking for a pass or he's looking to drive it to the hole instead. Like, no, shoot the ball, bro. Shoot it. Get that center to stop guarding you and just stop camping in the paint. Because then that opens up the floor so much more. when the center is just camping Hart, camping in the paint and just sitting on, kind of sagging off on Hart, the spacing is terrible at that point. So he needs to just let it fly. Someone said, "What up, bro? What's up, man? I hope you're having a good day so far." I'll probably end this stream within the next 5 to 10 minutes, but I do appreciate you joining in during this. Well, I am, in fact, still here. Someone said he's almost scared to shoot, talking about Hart. Yeah, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I really don't understand why Hart does that. It never made sense for me. Somebody said, thoughts on Kolek. Kolek's very good. I like his game and stuff. He's got game, but I just don't think he's going to play in the playoffs. But I am confident that if his name gets called and he does need to play important minutes in the playoffs, that he will deliver, because he's shown many times throughout this year that he can just come right back in and make an impact right away. I see we've had more people join, so what's up to everybody joining up? If you guys are watching this on Twitter and YouTube, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe to Fireside Knicks. And of course, follow my Twitter at Dylan Becker ESM. If you're on Instagram, same thing. Follow my Twitter at Dylan Becker ESM. And my Instagram account is the same name. If you guys are new to these live streams, make sure you like these and also follow Fireside Knicks. And share this stream, repost it to anybody who you think will enjoy this. I would love to interact with as many Knicks fans and NBA fans as possible. Somebody said agreed. Thanks, bro. Talking about Kolek. Yep, of course, man. Happy to answer that question. I appreciate the question a lot. Somebody said, I swear he probably hears all the McHale slander and avoids shooting it, talking about Hart. I just don't get why he doesn't shoot. I don't understand why he does that. I really wish I knew the answer at this point, because he's been doing that for the past like 3 seasons. He's been avoiding doing that. Just shoot the ball, bro. Shoot it, let it fly, because he's not a bad shooter. Like, I get it. He wants to do the other things, like the rebounding and play make a little bit and stuff, but we need him to shoot the ball for the spacing to be good and for all that other stuff to actually be effective. So he needs to shoot it. Someone said, I think Brunson shouldn't be the one to bring the ball up because he always seems fatigued at the end of the game. I get where you're coming from, and that's where Hart is impactful for, because he can take the ball up and he can play make at a good level. But of course, Brunson is your engine of the offense, and I bet you a lot of the plays, or I know they don't like to run a whole ton of plays, but I bet you a lot of the sets and stuff involve him patrolling the offense, which is why they have it that way. But I don't disagree. Someone said, I'd rather him go 0 for 8 from 3 to not shoot at all when he's open, talking about Hart. Yeah, that's literally my mindset too. Like, obviously I don't want a guy shooting that bad, but if you are gonna be open, just shoot it, dude. Like, if you miss it, you miss it. I'm not gonna get mad at someone taking a good shot. If you take a good shot and it doesn't go in, oh well, it didn't go in. I mean, that's just basketball. But if you take bad shots, then that's when I get frustrated, because you're creating a self-inflicted wound at that point. That's avoidable. And yes, as you just alluded to too, it shows confidence if you're putting up more shots. Someone said, do you believe in playoff McHale? I want to. I just hope he does what he did last year, but a little bit more than that. This is the last question I will answer, but this person said, I feel like they should involve Kolek and Shamit more because they have been more clutch. Those two guys have been clutch, yes, but I think we will see a lot more Shamit, especially in the playoffs. I think Mike Brown really likes Shamit a lot, just judging off the amount of minutes he always gives him. I think, honestly, I'd even argue Shamit is Mike Brown's most trustworthy bench option, and that's good, because Shamit has been very good this year. He's provided a great impact. He's done very good defensively. He's shown a lot of intensity on that end, and of course, has been a really good shooter this year. Now that he's back on the floor, you're already feeling his impact since he returned from that brief absence with the knee issue. So I think we will see quite a bit of Shamit. As far as Kolek, though, I don't think we'll really see him a whole ton, but Who knows? Maybe he will be out there. This will be the last question I'll answer because this is a pretty good question I do want to get to. Um, this person said, speaking of plays, do you think we're going to run more plays in the playoffs? Um, I don't think so because I don't see a situation where they're going to try to expand the playbook and try to get them to learn new sets in the postseason because this would have been the time to kind of do all that. And if they haven't been doing it now, I don't see why it would change in the playoffs. Just because you don't want to have to be learning something new in the games that you have to win, that you can't just like afford to be like okay with like punting to learn something. Um, Learning experiences are better off right now in the regular season, and this would be the time to do it with their seed not locked up, but they're pretty sitting comfortably in third. But they need, of course, need to still win these games to avoid falling fourth, because Cleveland, as far as I saw, has the easiest schedule left in the league. So they still have business to take care of. But like I just said, I don't think they're going to expand the playbook and try stuff new in the playoffs. I think whatever their system is now, their freestyle up tempo, whatever it is, um, they're just going to do that. What you see now is what you're going to see a lot of in the playoffs. What I hope to see more in the playoffs is more Brunson and Cat pick and rolls. I don't think we got enough of those this year at all, and I think we need to see more of that in the playoffs. I think we need to. You get those two guys involved in the action more often, then good results will come. But anyways, guys, we're about an hour into this, so I do think I'm gonna stop it here and wrap things up. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate everybody who watched on every platform on TikTok, not TikTok, on Twitter, YouTube, and of course the Fireside Knicks Instagram. We are on TikTok though, as I did just say, but we're not streaming this on TikTok, but we are on there. So make sure you guys go follow us on TikTok, and of course follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We're on every platform imaginable. You can follow my Twitter. It's at Dylan Becker ESM. If you're watching this on YouTube and Twitter, it's right there on the screen on the overlay. If you guys are on Instagram and you don't see this overlay, of course, then my Twitter is at Dylan Becker ESM, and my Instagram, same thing, at Dylan Becker ESM. Make sure you guys follow Fireside Knicks on every platform, as I just said. And I will see you guys in the next stream that I will do probably sometime next week. I'm not going to stream tomorrow on Easter Sunday. Still haven't decided about Monday yet. You guys will definitely be in the loop though. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Let's go Knicks.